Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tulio Siragusa with Dojo Live. Welcome back. It's Monday, and we are recapping two shows from last week. I'm joined by my co-host, Kim Lantis, just outside of Hermosillo, Mexico, and I am broadcasting from Southern California here in Los Angeles. Hi, Kim. Welcome back.
Hello. Hi, Tulio. Thank you.
All right. So we had two shows last week. We had one with Sumit Khandelwal, who's the CEO of Show Day. And yes, I said XOXO the last time, so I want to make sure I said it correctly today. We talked about powering businesses with people motivation, and this was specifically around the journey to building a full stack motivation and engagement technology company. And then we also spoke with Danny May, who's with Lingmo, and we talked about delivering smarter translation and specifically making critical information available to global audiences during COVID-19. This was a company that specifically uses AI technology for companies and chatbots online, for example, in order to interact with customers worldwide. And what I particularly liked about their technology is that it's something they claim it's customizable. In other words, it's not just translating words for words, but it actually can adopt the abbreviations or the specific language in a vertical or in an industry that makes the conversation with that audience more realistic, more like human to human, even though it might be a machine that's responding. So I thought that was interesting. And then the interview with Sumit was an interesting concept about rewards, using a platform to reward not just employees, but also peer-to-peer recognition and having a way to do that automatically. Anything that stood out for you out of these two shows, Kim?
Yeah, let's go to the one you left off with Sumit and Show Day or XOXO. I think it's okay to think of it in both ways, right? Because that's what they are, a motivational platform. And I think everybody knows, most people know, XOXO is hugs and kisses, right? Which is sort of what it's about. From what I understand, their platform is just that, a way to motivate employees specifically, right, with rewards, benefits, and engagements. You mentioned peer-to-peer. I think it also, of course, incorporates managerial levels. But what was interesting to me in that talk is what he finished the talk with, where a lot of times as companies, we have the mantra of the client is always right? Or client first, which I think customer first, which makes sense. But his point is, if your employees aren't happy, if they're not first, then they're not going to easily put your customer first, right? And so I think he just kind of switches that perspective a little bit. He talked a little bit about intrinsic rewards, extrinsic rewards, and I think their platform does a lot of both. But he mentioned intrinsic rewards being ultimately more important to people, right? Things that empower us, things that let us know that our voice is being heard and that this is happening on a regular basis. And so their platform, I think, facilitates this. And it also gives a freedom of choice, which I liked. A lot of times, perhaps we're off base when we're rewarding people, right? And it gives them the choice to choose what they would like their reward to be, which I think is appreciative. He also mentioned, and this is really interesting to me, that of course, their product is something that they as a company utilize regularly. So part of their key to success is the fact that they're actually using what they create, that they are easily integrating what they create with other formats that other companies are using, such as Slack and whatnot, and that they take UX and UI really seriously. So I thought all of that was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to point out that there's a difference between awarding people for performance, which is to drive more performance, right? So it's very sort of myopic in terms of what is intended. There's a purpose behind it. There's an ROI behind it. It's not always 100% heart in terms of actually stepping into a state of gratitude. And then there's organizations that have adopted gratitude and a state of gratitude as a way of doing business, which what their platform really allows is both. You know, if you want to use it for reward purposes, you certainly can, but it's really based on the concept of activating gratitude. And that gratitude could be for a peer of mine. It could be for someone you're reporting to. It doesn't matter. It could be a client. It doesn't really matter. It's just the facilitation of simply acknowledging someone with, whether it's a little reward or a big reward, and putting that power back to the employees, to the users. So employees are not at the mercy of some formal system of recognition. It's just open, and I think it's brilliant, and I hope a lot of companies adopt it.
2 of the 5 love languages, right? Words of appreciation and gift giving.
Right. Acts of service. That's right. Exactly. So kudos to them for, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. We hope a lot of companies look into that platform and certainly adopt it, because it sounds fantastic. And there have been studies after studies shown that practicing gratitude in the workplace does wonders, not just for the sense of well-being for the employees, but also there's studies that show tie into profitability. So it's a good business idea too, not just a good thing to do for people. And the other show with Denny May, there's a lot of translation platforms out there and applications, and even services where you could have someone on a screen that's literally translating or transcribing what you're saying. But I think what was unique about theirs is the acknowledgement that there are companies that are global and do a lot of transactions online, especially now, post COVID-19. A lot of transactions are done online, and to enable that possibility of typing in something and then the system coming back and responding in your own language, and then having a back default, like if the, that's like a front end conversation, but then still having people on the back end that can continue that conversation, and customizing the language so that it's relevant to the end user. We have a long way to go in terms of adopting AI so that these conversations are more natural. You can kind of still tell when it's a chatbot responding when you're 2-3 questions in, but it'd be nice at some point if not only can you customize the terms and the language for your specific vertical and industry, but even tonality and things that are relevant in the country or city that you're dealing with. What do you think?
Yeah. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Speaking of idioms, right there, frogs in my throat, right? If how does AI and a chatbot deal with something like that? Is it going to be translated literally? Because I really hope, right, there's not an actual frog in my throat. But yeah, I think there's still some speed bumps along the way, but it's interesting to utilize AI in that and how it's useful. And mentioning, there might be a learning curve, but I think it's also appreciative that it's okay that we know that it's a machine doing the interaction, and that we don't feel like here we go with another one, have the wool, right, pulled over our eyes. So I think that clarity is all right as well. What I really appreciated about Ling Mo is their story. I think the initiation, the origin of where it all came about, and his personal story of what happened to him when he was in China. And I think he lost his passport and he was using a translation application or something, and he inadvertently told the police officer, "I love you," I think, instead of intending something else. And so I think just the heart and the intentionality with the company is really awesome. He mentioned how they're, the applications, not just on business, but the human level as well, how they've offered their services for free, I think, in the state of Arizona to help with, immigrants who speak Spanish only and not English. He was mentioning also how one company is using this to help with sex trafficking, right? When someone is brought from one country to another, and this idea that you're never alone, right? There's some way somehow to speak and to be heard, which I think was really beautiful.
Yeah, great. Well, we had a great week. We're going to have a greater week this week. We have 3 guests. Let me just announce what we've got coming up. We're going to talk about buyer's remorse, why ERP software purchases don't meet expectations, and how to avoid them, with Chris Doig. I'm looking forward to that conversation. I actually spoke to him offline already. That's an interesting chat that we're going to have. And we're going to talk with Noah Labhart, who's the CTO of Variable, about manufacturing and flexible capacity through on-demand labor. So we're talking about supply chain. How can supply chain achieve flexible capacity? And last, we're going to chat with Shruti Rao, who's the co-founder of CBO at Vendia, and Chief Business Officer of Vendia. Here's what our guests will talk about, and we don't have a topic for that yet, so we'll announce it when it happens. Please join us every day at 1 p.m. this week except Friday. Thank you for joining us, and till then, stay safe.